The one thing I was wondering about the wood, because I love playing with wood and creating such crates and things. Do you guys have a stash of planks that you've sourced for the production?
Yeah.
Because I noticed, I mean, he does actual cuts.
Sure. No, absolutely. We've had to get like a huge order in.
Okay.
And during the rehearsal process, you know, we couldn't slice through all of it because then we would run out.
Yeah.
And so we started just like slicing because he was practicing and getting the physicality of it. And then after about 3 or 4 rehearsals, we're like, no, we're not going to have enough for the show.
Yes.
We keep on going. So then about a week in, we had to make a huge order to come in because I was like, guys, we're going to run out of wood really, really quickly.
Oh no, so you had to top it up.
Yeah. You have to top it up because I think initially when the order went in, they weren't sure how much wood we'd need, and also we were still rehearsing the play. So we're like, how many actually does he get through? So once we had decided that we need at least 3 that we can use for his performance, then it was like, okay, now we need to order more.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
but
right.
yeah, we definitely the wood has come through.
Yeah, because I see the excess one gets put up there as well.
Yeah.
How important is it for the scene, the set rather, to be preserved and believable?
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is the life of the whole play. You know, this is the porch, this is the home, and this is ultimately a story about a family. So this is literally where they fight, where they love, where they heal, where they bury, where they grow. You know, where they hurt each other, where they help each other. So this has to feel like it is the Maxon home. It has to feel that way, and also because during rehearsals, we were working with Troy, and I said, you know, this is his Colosseum. You know, this is his stadium. This is where every Friday night he comes and you see the play. He does all of these fantastical things and he puts on a show. So this is essentially his stage, right? But it's also their home. And particularly for Rose, this is what she's trying to protect. This is the fence that she wants to build around. This is the protection that she wants to keep everybody here. So it has to feel and look authentic to the actors and also true to what August Wilson has written. So everything that you see here, you know, from the ice box where they get the drinks and the chairs and all of that stuff is actually in the text. So we've done the best we can. And even this rag and ball that's tied there. We've got an amazing set designer, Sarah Roberts, who literally studied every single thing. And so that's why you see all of the beautiful texture that you have here.
It really is believable. But the whole fences metaphor, am I correct in labeling it as such? A metaphor for keeping the family protected?
Sure.
How would you interpret it?
Well, I mean, there's the beautiful line in the play when Jim Bono says, Rose, you know, she says, some people build a fence to keep people out, other people build a fence to keep people in.
That's quite profound.
And, which is quite profound, and it's also very just accurate to what eventually happens in the play, because then you realize who's in the home and who isn't. And then when Corey and Troy have the big fight, he says, you know, you get out of my yard, and he says, I'll come back for my things. And the line is, well, they'll be on the other side of this fence. That's the last thing he says to his son. You know what I mean? The fence is also significant because that's the bonding moments that they have every Saturday morning. You know, you're supposed to be building this fence. It's also the thing that Rose wants, because I think there's an instinct about her that she knows that something's going on, so she's trying to keep everybody in the house and keep everybody in the household. So for me, it is a physical thing that they want to be built, but it's also just about how do we keep connected to our families? What boundaries do we create for ourselves? What boundaries do we create within our familial structure and our home structure? And so eventually it becomes this physical thing. But the whole play, they're talking about this fence, about how far you can go, how far you can come back, where you can push things, what you must do to protect yourself. You know what I mean? So eventually the fence is here, but the man who built it is no longer here. You know?
That's so profound, because the essence of the whole thing, what I'm reading from your description, is that even with the with life itself, the play and so on, it's open to so many other interpretations. Is that what you try to do when you direct your cast in portraying a scene? Do you want them to deliver a particular message, knowing very well that the interpretation from the audience might actually be different?
Right. Well, I think, I mean, how we approach it, when we first get a text and a script, everyone's going to interpret it differently, and the actors are allowed their own interpretation also. But what gets us all on the same page is what happens in the rehearsal process, just analyzing the text and talking through. And sometimes we have some fierce debates about what's going on in the scene and what's being said and we can literally spend an hour talking about 3 lines in a play because you think this person's angry, I think this person's being vulnerable, this person is in the scene, but you're like, no, this is what they're saying about my character. And so that's why character interpretation and script analysis is so important. But by the time we get to blocking, by the time we get to staging, we've all come to the same place in terms of what message you're trying to give to the audience, what they then come and bring with their own lives in context, and then we don't have control over that, but that's never my intention, is to say you must feel this or you must think that. It's just about this is our offering of this artwork, and so that's what we do, but we all have to be on the same page for that, and that's why the rehearsal process is so important, and that's why theatre is so great, because in film and television you often don't get that time to just sit with your fellow actors and just talk or figure out different blockings. It's like television, here's the script, we meet each other, we rehearse, we shoot, we're losing the light, let's go. Whereas here, we could spend 2 weeks around a table just talking about stuff. So that's what we aim to do, is just to give our most authentic offering of what we've come to.
And speaking of authenticity, I mean, we were having a discussion about how this production is actually almost like a mirror to, the initial production that was done. How do you draw those correlations, especially when between your characters, right? Because it's an international production on a South African stage. There has to be synergy, ensuring that everybody kind of, understands and interprets the characters the same. But when there's an initial production in plays, how does that work, especially from your point of view?
Right. Well, I think for us, it's about understanding the 2 different worlds, right? So we're here in Johannesburg 2023, but this was set in Pittsburgh in 1957 and then staged in the 70s by American actors. So there are many bits and pieces that have to align for us to have a successful interpretation of it. And I think a huge first part of it is understanding the world and understanding the characters. So in the rehearsal process, we did a lot of research into what it would mean to be an African American at this time. We did a lot of research into the baseball league, the Negro leagues. We watched movies where they reference this whole, it's called Soul of the Game, which is an incredible movie. You must watch it. But, we also had a lot of visual aids that we actually put up in the room. So when they talk about Satchel Paige, when they talk about the Crawford Grill, when we talk about the A&P that Corey is supposed to be working at, we actually sourced images from those places so that we could have an understanding of what we're talking about. So it's not just an abstract, it's not just words. And the same would have to be said if there were Americans doing one of our plays. If they were doing Caesar Banzi's Dead, they would also have to, what are they talking about? What does this mean? It goes into the accent work, understanding how levels of education, class, emotional history comes into how you speak, and how you have an understanding of those things. And so once you start to really get into the world and the context, then it comes into, okay, fine, now I understand where this person is coming from, I understand the world that they're in, I understand their aspirations. How do I bring myself to it? How do I bring my humanity to it? How do I bring my South African experience to it? And the reason that, for instance, is such a great play for South Africans to watch is because there is so much synergy between the South African experience and an African American experience. We're actually not too far off in terms of what we've dealt with in terms of racism, destabilization, and what we still have to heal from now. So it's just about understanding where the play is set, what August Wilson was trying to do, and then as a South African, what does that sound like for you? Yeah.
And speaking of how it sounds, I mean, in a modern scenario where racial dynamics are still, very much contentious, and it is a topic of debate, right? But looking at the production, there are instances where, the racial undertones may or not perpetuate racism in a way. What would you like your audience to take away from the production?
Well, I just think, in terms of taking away in that particular context, it's about understanding that we are more alike than we are different, It's about understanding that there's still a lot of healing that we need to do. It's also understanding that because racism was also like an emotional warfare and terror, that a lot of it is also internalized, you know, even in the domestic structure within the home. So I'd want them to just do some self-reflection and examination as to how you feel about your own Africanness, your own blackness, your own family, and how that relates to how you see the world. You know, because, for example, with Troy Maxson, one of the reasons that he has gone through so much trauma is because he was talented but wasn't allowed to really play at a level because of the color of his skin. He hasn't gotten over that trauma. Therefore, his very talented son, he stops from achieving his own dreams. And then what happens? His son becomes a soldier. You know, so it's about, we have to understand how the pebbles and the generational warfare that we've dealt with still needs to be addressed. Just because some of the laws have changed doesn't mean that the hurt is gone. So I want people to still be mindful that we were indoctrinated with some of these thoughts, and it's up to us to get rid of them also.
Okay, so more like holding up a mirror to society and see a reflection of yourself.
Sure.
Where to from here for Fences?
Well, I mean, we close on Sunday, which is, you know, it's unbelievable to think that we've come this far, and now we've got just a few more performances left. So we're going to continue to do the best that we can. And, you know, I'm hoping that we'll be able to travel with this play. You know, I want to go to other parts of the country. I'd love to go to other parts of the continent also, and then even off the continent, because I think this has been such a beautiful rendition of this classic play that I want more people to see it. I want more people to see South African crew and artists at work, and I'm very proud of it. So it's something that I'd be happy to continue to show the rest of the world. So here's hoping that's what happens.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome.